Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Voltron Legendary Defender comic review. This one's going to be for issue number 2 of this series. 2 of 5 issues. This is only a 5-issue series. Here's the issue number 1 cover for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. So yeah, we're nearly halfway through now. Obviously a monthly series, as is the case with most comics. But yeah, so let's get into this. Same creative team as issue 1, of course. Tim Hedrick and Mitch Iverson on story, script by Mitch Iverson, and then art by the Digital Art Chefs. So yeah, same team. Overall, this issue, I would say, highlights that this story is taking a slightly more kind of fun, kind of comedic approach to this story, rather than trying to make it overly serious. I think based on the way issue 1 ended, in a quite serious kind of way, with obviously the fact that, oh, we've just killed the wrong thing. We've just killed the guardian of these people rather than the evil monster who's guarding this pearl that we're after. They could have taken it in a kind of slightly darker, more serious way, but they really take a comedic road with it, that it's almost laughing at the fact of what they've done rather than in any way really attempting to vilify the paladins for it. You know, it is an issue that they have to deal with the locals in this issue, but it's not so big that like they just can't make amends for it. The people seem affected by it, but not like you've just destroyed our livelihood kind of type thing. So definitely, you can tell this is a kind of comic series story, and it perhaps wouldn't necessarily fit perfectly if it was an animated episode, in that it would feel a little bit more like kind of filler episodes rather than like really important stuff. But at the same time, I could maybe see them like doing that, like if they had had more episodes in their run, just having this as a kind of quick kind of fun comedic arc. So the main gist of this story, obviously spoilers for this issue, because I don't think there's a lot to say about it without actually just talking about it. And the main gist of what happens here is that, yes, they do fight the actual monster. And that is basically what this issue is about. The preview from issue 1 for this issue hinted that Hunk would be a fairly important, have an important role in this issue. And to some extent he does. I wouldn't say it's like incredible, but absolutely he is the kind of ultimately the mastermind behind how this kind of event is dealt with, how the monster is defeated in the end. So, he's going to be our main character, and then, as I said, it's going to have a more comedic kind of tone to it in general. So, first thing to note is that it seems to be a stylistic thing with this comic series, that they are starting off kind of a little bit further into the story and then going back and catching us up with what's going on. In this case, we immediately start with the battle of Voltron against the actual monster, which is very similar to the way issue 1 started off, which was straight into Voltron fighting the Guardian. So I assume that's the way all of these issues are going to work. We're just going to be fight, go back and explain how this fight happened, and then the result of the fight. Interesting approach. As a way to just immediately get you invested in the story, that like a fight's going to happen, straight away. I don't know for sure that they're going to do it every issue, but that's 2 in a row already. So, yeah, that's just a quick start, just say, oh, maybe we shouldn't have killed the Guardian and gotten into this fight. But, yeah, after that, we basically cut back to just prior to the ending of issue 1. They deform Voltron and basically go down and talk to the people whose Guardian they've just killed. And the people these bug people here are annoyed, but they aren't treating it overly seriously. Again, they're treating these bug people as a little bit comedic, that they're overreacting to everything, even though they're not really. They talk about how dare you, our Guardian protected us from the most terrifying beast in the galaxy, Abomination. So that's their name for this monster, and I think it's just the name we're meant to take it as, that thing is called Abomination. And they basically just tried to make it clear to them, we made a mistake, yes, but that thing attacked us. We are actually the paladins of Voltron, the big robot that just formed. You know about us. And they reveal that they don't. And they're just like, okay, it's been 10,000 years. Not everyone's going to know about Voltron. Okay, fair enough. The leader of these people says that his name is Elderbug Blate. So we assume that these are the bug people, and he is the Elderbug whose name is Blate. He says he's the town's leader, and we just basically says, like they want to know if they know about the Elaxian Pearl, and they're basically saying, no, we're not telling you anything about it, because how can we trust you after you just destroyed our guardian? And immediately Hunk, after this, is distracted from the story. He's distracted from what the page and this Elderbug are talking about, because he sees this giant pile of food basically nearby. And this is where things get a little bit interesting, in that as Hunk tastes the food, he thinks it tastes pretty good. He adds some spices into it to make it taste even better, and the bug people seem to really like it. But Punk does... I keep calling him Punk. Hunk overhears the bug saying, after the Guardian ate the bowl of food, he would only eat a few of our people. And this is suddenly like, oh wait, the Guardian wasn't this super friendly relationship with this bug people. It was more of this kind of sacrifice type thing. That yes, the Guardian helped them, but it was in exchange for food. And if they didn't give it enough food, the villagers would be eaten. And it's clear from the dialogue here that the villagers are only able to make just about enough food so that 4 or 5 of them are only killed. But still, it highlights that, oh, this is a bit of a problem here. The villagers are in this kind of weird spot where it's either let a couple of their people be killed or let all of them be killed. Let a couple be killed and make all this food and devote themselves to that, or basically be at the risk from both of these monsters attacking them and just wiping them out of existence, basically. So these villagers, these bug people, are in a really bad situation, and you can sort of see how the paladins coming in and changing that up is going to really affect things. But yeah, they just get across that that's the way it's always been, that the Guardian would keep Abomination at bay, but they'd have to sacrifice a few villagers. So that's it. The Elder is also annoyed that Hunk has has basically, in his mind, desecrated their sacred meal for the Guardian by adding stuff to it. But when they force him to taste it, he actually really likes it and is basically has a complete 180 and is just like, okay, I don't quite trust you, but that food was really good, so if you can defend us from the Abomination, I might tell you about the Elaxian Pearl. So they're being quite reasonable, and again, this is the more comedic side of it, that they just feed him and the food tastes better than they've ever had, and he's just like, yeah, let's just forget about this whole our way of life that you've changed. But at this point, the monster shows up. Really great page of art here as it shows up. Really nice kind of shading and dark colors there, and scale as well, as you can see the size of that pile of food compared to him. So really cool, and I like the design for the monster as well, just the kind of darkness and then the kind of glowing red inside. But yeah, they just very quickly form Voltron. Amazing page of art here. I'd love a poster of this double page spread. It's really nice. As you see, just the 5 lines swirling together and then forming Voltron. It's a really, really great page of art. You can tell this must have been the kind of pages that took the longest to kind of put together. But yeah, the fight then just happens, and this is where we get a lot of dialogue between the paladins. Lance and Keith arguing about who's the best pilot, because earlier on in the issue, Lance was kind of Keith was insulting Lance about, you control the legs, you have to have good control over the legs. You keep having us trip up and stuff like that. Whereas me as the arm, I'm forming the sword, and that's what's winning us all of our fights. And ultimately, in the middle of this fight against the Abomination, Lance does some pretty good stuff with the footwork and helps them out, but none of their attacks are doing any sort of damage. They can cut it in half, but it immediately reforms. It just kind of glues itself back together. They try Hunk's Bayard upgrade, the whole blaster cannon thing. They blast it apart, but it just reforms again. And then Lance decides that, wait, why don't I just use my Bayard upgrade? It's probably way better than Keith's anyway. He inserts his Bayard into the slot, twists it, nothing happens. And then Pidge just says, You must not be ready to unlock that upgrade yet. When I first read this, I was so annoyed because I'm just like, oh wow, we're finally going to get to see what Lance's upgrade is when he does something special with Voltron. What's his kind of new weapon or whatever. But then reflecting on it, I'm just like, there's no way they're going to give away a big power up like that in one of the comics. They're going to save that for like the second half of the season 2 when it comes out. That's going to be a big moment in the fight when Lance unlocks his power up, when Pidge uses her power up and stuff like that. Maybe when all 5 of them or multiple use their powers at the same time. So I'm actually kind of reflecting on it now. This is actually a really cool setup in this comic that Lance has tried to do it, but he hasn't unlocked it yet. It's hinting that he at some point will, unlock this at some point. He will have to develop enough for this to actually come about. So that's it. That's very interesting. But all the time while they're tussling with this monster, Hunk is beginning to speak up a lot more. He's kind of realizing that all the monster wants to do is run to the city where the bug people are and eat the food. He realizes that this monster likes food just as much as he likes food. And because he understands that, he kind of thinks that the only way, it sounds crazy, the only way we're going to be able to stop this monster from destroying everything is by making it some food, cooking it a meal. And so he basically just asks for the trust of the whole team. Can we disband Voltron? And under my orders, can we make it some sort of a food? And so what he does is he has Shiro distract the monster. Paige goes to get some shrubs. Lance brings the water. Keith cooks the food. And then Hunk basically picks up the corpse of the Guardian and stuffs it into this kind of giant pool of water that they've made that's all cooked up now. And because obviously the monster looked basically like a lobster, they basically cook lobster for the abomination monster. It immediately smells this and heads over, eats it, and apparently it's so full that it just kind of collapses over and is in a kind of food coma, basically. And that's how they resolve the kind of fight with this thing. They can't defeat it, but they've stopped it from rampaging by basically satisfying its hunger. And it's just completely out, and it's just so funny to see this dangerous monster just kind of collapsed in this kind of food coma. And yeah, again, this just completely highlights the comedic nature of this issue, that this serious thing from the end of issue 1, the fact that they killed the Guardian, they just give it to the other monster as food. Like, they cook it for him as food, and it's basically just lobster. It's hilarious. You get this nice moment as over the radio communications, Hunk says to Shiro, "Thanks for trusting me, Shiro," and he says, "That's what a leader does. He believes in his team and gives them the power to succeed. Besides, I'm never betting against your gut." Then we cut to the kind of final scenes of the chapter, and they're all eating the food that they have left. Obviously, they haven't had to use the food that Hunk has basically altered to make it really good. They're all eating happily together. And the resolution for all of this is that the Elder Bug basically just says, "Thank you for saving us. With the new cooking system you created, we will be able to feed the Abomination easily, and he should leave our village alone. Our tradition has lasted so long that no one realized it was the cause of our suffering." It's a little quick to resolve the entire interaction with this species. That just, okay, we now have a system to make enough food for the Abomination and that it will go away. It doesn't explain it really, because the Guardian is dead. The Abomination has just eaten the Guardian. How are they going to make enough food? If they couldn't make enough food for their Guardian in the first place, where are they getting the food to give to the Abomination? Just because Hunk has taught them to add a few extra spices or something like that, and because he's taught them this kind of boiled water method of cooking within this giant hole, is that enough? I don't know, it just feels a little unexplained that the only reason they're able to feed it this time is because they happen to have this giant Guardian there to feed it. So I don't know what the kind of, if that's a satisfying resolution or not. It just feels a little illogical and not overly well explained. And then this whole idea of just such quick resolution for the villagers' feelings on the whole matter, that they didn't realize the situation that they were in, that what the peaceful, apparently, relationship they had with with the guardian was actually what was causing them so much stress in the first place, and that they were giving it food, but it wasn't enough, and they were getting some of their villagers eaten, whereas the problem was that they needed to be able to fend for themselves, or what? It's just a little mixed messaging, I think, towards the end here. It doesn't quite come together as well as it could. It overall, I think, works. The general gist, I get what they're going for. It's just, no, it doesn't feel overly reasonable towards the end, that like it's just like, okay, we have enough food to feed the abomination, which is super powerful, big, and eats a lot, and then, yeah, we're happy, we've changed our, we didn't realize that that was the cause of our suffering, because otherwise, what were they meant to do? It's just weird. And then they ask about the Elaxian Pearl, and they revealed, oh yeah, I overstated how much I knew about it. I don't know where the pearl is, but he says, I do know who does know where it is. Princess Malakoti. But she's been captured and is being held captive. You have to rescue her to find out where the pearl is. And so the last page of this issue is Lance kind of getting up and being like, saving a princess, eh? That sounds like a job for Lance. And it's perfect character development. As he's just as they're just like sitting down to eat, Lance steps up and says it, that he just hears there's something about a princess, and it's just like, I'm all over that. And the preview for next issue says, in the next issue, Voltron's overconfident Blue Line pilot swings into action, but soon learns that this new monster is not all that it seems. So it very much seems like these issues are going to have the same sort of a format. Every issue is going to be them battling a new monster to get to the next person who maybe knows where the Elaxian Pearl is, which will transition into the next issue until we finally get back around to getting the Pearl and getting Karan back. So yeah, that's the issue. As I said, overall, very fun. The art is great. I think the writing for the characters is quite well done. I just felt like the resolution and plot was a little, like they were just having so much fun writing it, they didn't think through the logic of the people just being happy with their situation right now. That I don't know where they're getting all this food from. They as I said, they sort of imply that just them knowing how to make the food taste better will satisfy the monster a bit more, so the little food they're able to make will be enough. I think that's what they're going for now, because now they only have to deal with one monster, and this one monster is much more easy to satisfy, I think. Again, it's just, I suppose it's an explanation they didn't want to go into, but you're definitely left scratching your head a little bit at the resolution. So, yeah, the story definitely taking a direction I didn't expect at all, because how could anyone have predicted that at the end of this issue we'd be going after a princess of some other planet or something like that? I'm excited to see where it goes, in that like it suddenly this plot to get Karan back after his kidnapping is suddenly turning into this huge adventure. I like that the comics are being given a fairly big story, but yeah, I'm excited for next issue. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the issue and the review. Other than that, that's been a video, and I'll just say links to my Twitter and Tumblr if you want to follow me on social media are in the description. If you want to help support my channel, link to a PayPal donation link and also my Patreon page are also in the description. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.